today to speak about women in leadership, and I'm honored to have Ann Mackenzie and Elke Rubach with me today to join the discussion and talk a little bit more about women in leadership. I'm going to introduce you, but I think it's better if they introduce themselves. Ann, please share with us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. I'm a VP at CIBC Mellon. I lead a team of relationship managers. I've been in financial services for many years. I'm also very involved in the nonprofit sector. I was the vice chair of an African health organization, AMREF, for 8 years, and I'm still on the Special Olympics Foundation board.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining today.
Thanks for having me.
And Elke, tell us a little bit about what you do and who you are.
First and foremost, thank you for having me. So my name is Elke Rubach. I'm a reformed lawyer. And I founded and I'm president of my own wealth management firm. It's Holistic Family Advisory. And essentially what we do is financial planning for professionals, and we specialize in women.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And Elke also is the founder of Fashion Heels for SickKids, who has raised over $500,000 for pediatric cancer. Thank you again. So let's get right into the conversation. We talk about women in leadership, and we have many challenges as leaders in general. But what would you say are the biggest challenges that you've faced as a woman in leadership?
I would say more earlier in my career. I think I was less confident in those days. I think a lot of women suffer from imposter syndrome, where you think you can't do the job, or I can't believe they hired me for this job. I think you just have to own it. You have to step forward and believe that you can do it. Often men get the job first, or you're competing against men, especially and Elke can relate, in financial services. It's a fairly male-dominated sector. Mm-hmm. But you know what? You can do the job. You are as equipped as a man. And you don't hear men saying, I can't do that job, or I'm worried that I can't do that job. Like, you just have to be confident and be sure of yourself. Thanks,
Ann. And Elke, what would you say has been your biggest challenges as a woman in leadership?
I think I share with Mary Ann the same concepts. For me, it was when my 3 kids were little, and I had to make sure that, well, first of all, they were all fed and distributed to the right schools. And because there's the daycare, the school, and the preschool, and the madness that goes with that, with all of that, and building your business and determining the vision of where you want to go and what you want to do and who your team is. So that's a lot. Like that's logistics at its finest. I think that was the most complex time of my life.
I would agree with both of you. I would say that as a woman in leadership, one, we have self-doubt, right? We think, oh, can I do this? And if I don't believe in myself, then how can anyone else believe in me? So, to charge through and have that confidence and do the necessary homework, if you will, to be prepared and have that self-confidence, because yes, depending on the industry you're in or the leadership role that you're taking, we are up against many others that have other skill sets or stronger sort of suits to be able to fit the role. And predominantly it's usually a weighted balance on there's a gender issue there as well. And I would also say that it's the balance. It's a tough balance as a woman in leadership. I mean, many of us do have families that, you're taking that role in the home where you want to make sure that you're providing both, not just sort of financially, but mentally and provide that support for your children, your spouse, your parents, sort of the whole thing. Myself, I'm in a sandwich generation with elder parents, young kids, but it's really a matter of balancing. So I would say to overcome those challenges, it takes a village. It's not a lie. We need to be able to reach out to different resources. So, what advice would you give the next generation of female leaders? What would you say? Okay, now you've got this leadership role, you nailed it, but what advice can we provide them with to continue that momentum, to continue to take the lead?
There's a couple of things. Again, it's back to owning it, being confident, knowing you can do the job. Don't back down. You might have some people that say something or act a certain way, but it's their problem, not yours. Don't take it personally. Yeah. Just keep driving for whatever it is you're looking for, and be authentic. Be yourself in your personal life, in your public life, so people will see you as who you are and see that they want to join your team. That's a place where they want to be part of. So, and build alliances. I think that's the other thing. You have to build some alliances along the way. You don't want to be that leader out on an island that, I got here, but nobody else wants to be there with you. You have to build a team of people that work with you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I think you raise really good points. And I think another issue we have as women is we think that if we ask for help, that means we can't do it.
You're weak.
And that's a terrible idea. The whole concept of work-life balance doesn't mean that, from 40 hours, 20-hour work and 20-hour home. It's one day it'll be more loaded to work and then the family won't be as looked after. And the next day it's the other way around. And as long as you can kind of balance it in a kind way to yourself, I think you're ahead of the curve. And surrounding yourself with the right people and asking for help. And if you know who you are, what you stand for, and what you can do, the team can help you. And the other thing too is if you try to do it alone, there's a good chance that you might go sideways and not have anyone there to say, hey, it's over here. Can you, have you considered this? So it's, I guess the concept of being able to prove yourself, but it doesn't mean you have to do it alone.
Right.
And I think on that note as well, as Mary Ann said, we need to be authentic. So, the proving yourself part will just organically come. You'll build credibility along the way as you continue to do great things. As long as you've got that vision, there's no I in team. We're not able to get to where we want to be alone. And at the end of the day, it's pretty lonely if you're by yourself when you've had successes and achievements. So I would tend to agree with you both that, as advice, I would say to the next woman leader, it's important to be your authentic self, to be kind, recognize and acknowledge, right, where you need support. I started sort of looking at things a little bit differently when we had the beginning of COVID, whereas, don't work harder, work smarter, right? So if you're not taking those breaks, for example, through the day, you're going to run out of steam. Similarly, if you're not balancing effectively, whether it's through the week or through the month, and reaching out to your resources, well, then you're going to crash and burn. So make sure that you're reaching out to those resources and be true to yourself. And sometimes, you think you've gone down a path and you almost lose the purpose. So always do that check in terms of, is this still the right path? Because things change, right? We've all had to pivot in the pandemic. So
and it's fine to change. That is
exactly.
Absolutely acceptable.
Absolutely.
You're not a failure. If anything, COVID has, in the professional sector, has leveled it a bit more, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys remember the video of the British fellow that was doing an interview, and then the little kid walks in, and then the wife dives and tries to catch the kid and almost grabs him by the diaper and drags him out, and then tries to get the other one in the walker. Now, the kid running around, the dog barking, everything has become just more human and more
normal.
real.
Yeah.
More real, right?
Yeah.
Now you just have to master the mute button and the camera. That's all you need to do. But it's fine. And then guys realize that what women had to put up with in the past for us to be building our business.
Yeah.
Now the advantage of owning your own business is that by definition there's a little crazy in there. When you launch yourself into entrepreneurship. So you already don't necessarily know how you're going to do it. It's a bit of bumper cars, to the right, to the left. You go to the right, it goes backwards. But building a team and just being steadfast on who you are, your values, and where you want to go is really the only way. And that goes for business ownership or professional environment.
Yeah. I was just going to say the same thing. Whether you're a business owner or just a woman in a leadership role, you almost have to have that entrepreneurial mindset all the time, because, you're up against sort of the different skill sets that are going to perhaps outweigh what your value is presented. So you need to be able to support and keep building and learning and pushing forward.
You
right?
triggered a thought when you said be kind. You know, as a woman leader, sometimes you struggle with, am I being too nice? Am I being too tough? And is someone going to judge me for my behavior? That's where it comes back to being authentic, because then you don't have to try to be too nice or try to be too tough on people. You just be yourself, and the challenge presents itself. So
100%.
And I think we've had this sort of discussion before where, well, there's two different types of women in leadership roles. There's the ones that are really out to kind of prove something, and then there's the ones that just want to do great things. So you can still kind of build that credibility and prove something, but again, going back to your authentic self, what's your purpose? Why are you in this leadership role? Is it just to get acknowledgement and recognition as a woman in a leadership role? Or is it because you really want to lead and do great things? So I would say the latter is really what you should focus on, because there's no need to, I guess when you think about people in leadership, you don't want to have that mindset, I got to prove that I'm right, or I need to kind of be at the top. It will happen with the authenticity and sort of the drive to succeed in terms of whatever you're trying to achieve.
I agree with every word you say. And I can say from my perspective, when we work with women and we do their financial plans and their capital programs and all these things, we take a step back, and what we want to really really pull out of them is, who are you?
Yeah.
Because if I tell them what to do, I'm literally putting my values onto their plans. That doesn't work. They're not going to follow them. If I figure out what's important to them and why they do it, even if they're the hardcore, heartless leader and they're okay with that, we can work with that. But what we do then is, listen, you spent 40, 50, 60 years being a lawyer, being a fill in blank. What's going to happen when you face retirement?
Right.
Who are you the day you're no longer a lawyer, banker, whatever it is? And the fear that kicks in is unreal, because these people have devoted their lives to their careers, to building a name, to advancing their career. And in many cases, they have not stopped once to figure out who they are and what they want to do later on.
Mm-hmm. No, and that defines them.
Yeah.
Right.
We touched on it, but what are some of the main impacts you've seen or that the pandemic has had on women in leadership?
I think, again, it depends the level, right? People in retail, they got hurt first. Frontline workers, women are working more than ever. But in the professional world where we're mostly living, I think, as I said, spouses are now forced to step up. Women are, now that kids are back in school, that's a different conversation, because I just feel for those with little kids and had to be dealing with helping them with
impossible.
Poor connections and
science experiments.
You would see the screen with 25 kids and teacher, did I do it right? Oh, look at mine. And the teacher's like, and the teacher's kids pulling the teacher's skirt. So that was a different conversation. But let's assume kids are in school, or they belong. Let's say that's a situation. I think now it's really it's a huge opportunity for women, because we can work from home. It's okay. You've optimized your time. You're no longer commuting. You can just send the kids off to school and switch on and start working. And if you're disciplined, you're great. But the other part of discipline too is knowing where to stop. Because you can drive yourself to the ground working 22 hours a day. And at some point, A, your returns are going to be dismal, and B, you're going to burn out.
Yeah, I would say, a lot of things have impacted women with the pandemic. They've retreated a little bit. Women, we're all guilty of it, feel it's our job to do the home thing and the work thing. And I think this is a tough message, but whatever you're demanding in your career, you kind of have to demand with your personal life. You both had kids, so you both have to participate. It can't be on the shoulders of the woman all the time. The woman has to have some support at home to take care of the kids and to do the classes and all that kind of stuff. But I'm seeing women are quitting because they don't seem to have an option. They're stepping away from work altogether.
Which
and
is
it's really unfortunate.
It's truly unfortunate. I would say the same. There's stats out there that, the unemployment rate is predominantly women, and simply because they've focused on the role in the home and at home. And I think, that being a grave impact, it's also, to your point, Mary Ann, it's important to have the conversation, to be creative in terms of exploring resources. If your drive is that you want to continue working and that provides you with purpose and a sense of accomplishment. So I like to end off on a positive note.
Well, can I add one more thing to that? Because I think there's things that people leaders can do as well.
100%.
So as a leader, give them flexibility, like give them the chance. One thing I said early, because your comment about with little kids and people look frantic on the screen, early COVID days, everybody was in a little bit of a crisis. And I would say to people, work in the morning, take 3 or 4 hours in the afternoon and sit with your kids and do their classrooms and whatever. You can make up the time later. Like, give them the flexibility to do both. And they appreciate it and they work harder.
Absolutely.
They're not going to just take the day off. They appreciate the fact that they can do both.
And they want to still contribute. So allow them to do it on the best time and schedule that they can. I had a team member that it was just like something that would take her 20 minutes was taking her 2 hours because she was being pulled in 10 different directions. And she actually said it to me. I didn't notice. I said, oh my goodness, don't stress yourself out. Absolutely. Whatever works.
Yeah.
And again, people are just going to drive and do great things because that's what people are harder, especially I think women in leadership's roles, that they feel that they need to sort of work a little bit extra to get that opportunity. They're hard enough on themselves. Yeah. So there's no need to kind of add to
Be
that.
harder.
Right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And the other thing I say is like, surround yourself with the right people.
Yes.
Because if you have the friend that you can go cry with, or the other friend that you can go, gossip with or complain or vent, that will release some steam.
Yes.
And it's so important to do that and literally schedule it, because otherwise it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And it just make it happen. It's kind of like when you go to the gym, you drag yourself to the gym. Once you did it, you feel great. You're like, okay, that was a good idea.
Yeah.
So, and that's the other thing, when we work with women that we can see that they're at a point where they're about to burn out, we check in with them. And one of the questions we ask is, how satisfied are you with your job? And for example, I always give the lawyer example because we work with a lot of lawyers. Is it the practice of law that's killing you, or is it law itself? And it's not necessarily the same thing. And then when you start peeling the onion and understanding what the issues are, and you help them figure out what's important to them, like obviously within your professional boundaries, but you're coaching them through possible outcomes that we've seen as, day after day after day. And I always say I've seen a million cases, but they're all different.
Yeah.
But if you add them all up, you see that there are certain, trends that you can map out, and allow people to keep in mind that we are human, and work is great. Titles are phenomenal. Achievement is phenomenal. But are you doing it for yourself at the end of the day, or to prove someone that you could? And if you're proving someone, I can tell you that 9 out of 10 times, that's an empty achievement.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
That's what I was talking about with the 2 different types of women in leadership. So we acknowledge that there's so many struggles that women in leadership can face, but I'd love to motivate and provide some guidance for our viewers today. What are some of the positive experience that you've had as a result of being a woman in leadership role?
I think the unexpected, right? When you're doing your thing, people are watching. For me, as I have, the fact that my daughter knows that work is the natural thing, and then we have fashion heels, and she sees that, she's like, I want to do that too, and I want to help. And it started by, holding a little sign, and then she gets creative as to what she can do. But also for my boys to see that they have to open doors.
Right.
Right. So it's both. And generally speaking, have I come across nasty guys? Sure. Sure I have. But generally speaking, guys want to help too. They just need to be shown how.
To understand it.
And if you, as you yourself, don't know what you want and what you need, how are you going to tell others what you need and how they can help you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
it's about looking within.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what would you say would be the most sort of positive experience you've had?
Well, I fully agree with Elke. I think, lead by example. Your daughters, your sons, or your employees, or women in an organization. Like you want them to be part of your team. You want them to see that there is a path forward. And as a leader, you're officially and unofficially mentoring all the time.
Yeah.
Like you're mentoring your team, you're coaching your team. You might be officially mentoring someone in your organization or outside, but to see them succeed, that's a positive.
It's pretty rewarding.
Yeah.
It's pretty rewarding. I would say the same thing. I mean, I have daughters myself, and inspiring, my little one is always coming up with a new business that she wants to open, whether it's rings or bracelets or t-shirts that she's going to make, and, getting a call from the school of her selling slime on recess.
That's
finding
great.
the deal of the candy that we can get for cheaper at one grocery store to sell for a market rate at school. But you don't realize that you're inspiring and you're driving sort of great change, and offering that opportunity exists for women and men. But there should be really no differentiation in that sense. If you have a drive to do something, and that you have a passion, then go for it. And I think sticking true to yourself is really the key thing. So the most positive experience I've had is, again, not just inspiring my own kids, but, we do these HR Real Talks, and I think, hey, I don't know if anyone's really paying attention, if it's having any value, but then I get the message that says, thank you so much. That was amazing. And, because of your show or your conversation, it inspired me to do X or to do Y. And I think these things that come out of left field really make a difference. And, if we just continue to lead passionately, authentically, then we'll have more that will follow and do the same. So,
and I think that the whole paradigm of what you're supposed to be is shifting a little. So when I talk to my children about what they want to do when they grow up, I specifically use, what do you want to do? I don't want them to tell me what they want to be.
Very true.
Because if they define themselves as, like my girl wants to be an astronaut, and her room is planets and galaxies and little lights everywhere. And I said, like, do you know what you need to do to be able to become an astronaut? She goes, well, let me Google it. So she goes, like, I found out the best engineering schools are Harvard, then Yale, then this and that. I'm like, okay, can we get the information package? I'm like, well, if you want to, peruse what you need to do to be able to apply to get there, absolutely. So off we go. But I want her to see it as what she can do, not who she's going to be.
Yeah.
Because like in my case, I left law. I needed much more contact with people. I wanted to help people. The what's important to you, pull it out. Then there's my personal story, and kind of like organize the family so people have what they need and need what they have, and that's it. Like simplify your financial life, people. Mm-hmm. Get a will, have a plan. All these things, and as opposed to just let's grow assets. I can do better. So I left law, and when people saw that I became a financial advisor, they're like, did you hit your head? I'm like, no, I'm not a lawyer. I studied law. That helps. It's informative, it's educational, it's good, it's a great foundation, but I don't define myself as a lawyer or nothing. Mm. So I think that's important, and that would be one thing that I would love this generation to understand, that if you change, it's okay. It's a journey. It's not failure.
Yeah.
Right.
And, people change careers, I think, up to 7 times in their lifetime is what the stats say. But this has been an amazing conversation, ladies. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
So tell us, how can our viewers find you on LinkedIn, Instagram, so that we can make sure we tag you, and if they need to reach out to you and continue the conversation, I'm sure you would welcome that.
On social media, we're on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and I think Twitter. The handle for all of them is Rubach Wealth, so RUBACH, word wealth, WEALTH. Phone number 647-349-7070. And honestly, my cell phone, which is a lot faster to answer these days, 647-808-7700. Welcoming a conversation. People need to let out steam, whether it's financial or not. I'm here.
Thank you so much. And Mary Ann, how can we reach you?
Yeah, and mine's a little different. I don't run my own business, work for a big organization, but CIBC Mellon is on all of the above. You can look us up on LinkedIn or me on LinkedIn, Ann Mackenzie. All my information is there, and I'd be happy to chat as well.
Thank you so much.